So we're getting started here with a double page spread using Procreate. I am going to make sure I've got my layers set up correctly. My top layer is going to be the comic book blue line our digital artboard that I've created here. It's based on something I created years ago when I was actually printing out my own comic book artboards at home to draw on. So they're totally customized. I have my name and my little logo, but I've since I'm working mostly digital these days, I'm drawing it in Procreate. So that top layer is going to be the comic book blue lines, and this layer is set to multiply. And so what I'll do is I'll drop underneath that this second layer, and these are actually where I will put my pencil, we'll call these the pencil roughs. And what it's going to be is essentially the very first sketch here, even though I already did a sketch, which let me pull that in here. Let's go to, let's see, add, insert a photo, and here it is. File is importing, and we basically have what I will label here now that it's in Procreate. I actually pulled it into that layer, so let's just, that layer I just created is pencil rough. So right now what we'll do is we'll just call this the thumbnail, because that's really what this artwork is here. It is a thumbnail for this double page spread that we'll be drawing. So since we have this here, I'm going to lower the opacity on that and create a new layer, and we will call this the pencils. I could call it pencil rough, but for right now I'm just going to call it pencils. So we'll just get that going, and it has set up as an opacity of just 100%, and we're just going to go to town here, start working on this layout. So I've got my pencil brush here, using it. I have like a set library, a specific set here that essentially has everything that I will use for drawing and inking my comic books in Procreate. I have this peppermint pencil, there's something called Casual, I don't remember where I got that. I think that's something I bought online. And then here are the IGB Crowquill pens and a tactical pen which came with Procreate. So, but before we do any of that, I'm just going to do some penciling here. So let's just kind of get started. I'm going to drop this opacity here on this thumbnail even a little bit more still, and then we'll get to work on this, kind of just working this out here. Make sure I've got the right pencil size going. So yeah, I've got this here, penciling the figure. It's essentially, you know, I did this rough, I actually did this thumbnail in Photoshop a day or two ago, and I did it in Photoshop because as I was finalizing the story to finish the previous page before this page, which I post on my website, I decided that the story needs to actually make a change, because it was going a little too slow for me. It wasn't moving fast enough after, and sometimes, you know, I mean, I've written out the story for this issue, I've plotted it, and I plot things first for this story that I'm working on. It's totally self-published. I'm the writer, the author, the editor, the artist, and when I'm working on this particular story for my own characters and my own comic book, my own IP, I kind of fly, I wouldn't say I fly blind, but I definitely do just kind of fly at my own pace. And what I discovered was, over the past several pages, which on my website I released, and I call them episodes or chapters, the story was admittedly was kind of lagging, wasn't having enough momentum, as I call it. There wasn't enough, after looking at the first 7 pages of this 4th installment, wasn't propelling the plot, particularly for the character Kasia. It wasn't moving things fast enough, and it wasn't revealing. It felt very similar from page to page. I was pleased with the artwork I did, and obviously as I plotted this, I was thinking of introducing the other characters, who are called the Metaterrans. Yet I felt, again, as I was proceeding to tell the story, it wasn't moving fast enough for me. Even though I wrote the story out, or the plot, at the start of the year, of this year, it's 2023 now, and it's early September as I start penciling this page, and figured that I needed to switch things up. And so the story is still going to move in the direction I want it to. It's just I need to, as I say, pick up the pace, kind of move things along a lot quicker than they have been. And what I was originally going to do was draw an entire sequence of pages within this issue that basically revealed more of these Metaterrans, which is the character that Kasia is herself, and just kind of like let those pages just kind of tell a little bit of a backstory for her, kind of revealing a little bit more about her background through even more vignettes, which I still want to get to, but I also, and that's more of like her past and her history, but for the sake of the story, because I'm deciding I think I want to wrap this up in 4 issues, I kind of need to build a little bit more reveal and a little bit more action and consequences as I move through these pages, rather than show the remainder of these characters, which they're going to get their own, they'll get their due, they'll get their own spotlight in due time. But as it stands now, I'm propelling the story faster, and in this case I'm using a double page spread to move, like I said, to move the story a lot further along. And one of the things I'm actually looking forward to is changing Kasia Menor's costume. She's been basically in this like swimsuit bikini since like the very first issue. And I do, if you've seen my work before and you go to my website and you look at the painted artwork I've done, there is a third, what I call this, there's actually a second version of the character as far as like the design, and that puts her basically in clothing, and it moves her to the next stage of her character development, which I'm going to accelerate that here a lot faster than I was going to initially. And being an artist who works on this not full time, but works on it fairly regularly, but to my embarrassment, not as consistently as I should. But I'm looking to get the story again moving further along, because I do eventually want to introduce the other characters, because this is an entire universe, and I've fleshed out, at least visually, with these character designs that I did for my Realm Ethereal universe 4 years ago, coming up on 5 years. So it's important for me to tell the story of the main character, Kasia, in this world, but she's only like one facet of this universe that I'm creating here. And that's the one thing I want to do, is I want to make sure I get the other characters going, but there's still some loose ends to tie up with this storyline here. And with Kasia, I mean, it's been fun drawing this ethereal here Adon and getting him kind of situated as this interdimensional traveler, multi-universe type of steward who is able to move and shift anywhere through the realm ethereal. And so he's a critical part of this story, and so that's why it's important to showcase him and his interactions with Kasia. But I'm kind of want to, like I said, I want to move things along a bit more. So what we're doing here is just kind of roughing in the character here. And one of the cool things about working on my own character designs is I've like I said, I've created them by way of these paintings that I started 4 years ago, and they started out as these character studies, and then I eventually got them to a point where I wanted to explore the world that they live in and create a storyline for them. And so being able to see that come to fruition has been cool and satisfying as a creator, especially since it's my own property. But now what I want to do is I want to take what I've done here and get it moving, get it to the point where I can focus on the next phase. It's still going to be comic books, very much so, because I do paint, and I do love doing the digital illustration by way of like painting in Photoshop or Procreate. But again, like I've stated before, I'm primarily, first and foremost, a comic book artist. This is the stuff that I love doing, and it's a tremendous amount of fun. But what I was driving at before I went slightly off into a tangent was developing these characters. Still a bit of trying to figure out who they are, and I know that as I'm drawing them, the visual look of the characters may change a little bit. Hopefully not too much. This is where, let's see, I should take a look at some reference at my own character here. This is add-on as I pencil him in. That's going to be reference we're going to be using for the character on the same page here. But let's go to find the good reference of add-on. There we go. That's what I was looking for. Looking for the mask. His little faceplate here. Make sure I stay pretty close to that design. Kind of get this roughed in, and I guess this is turning into more of a pencil roughs kind of page for me. This kind of goes up here, which is fine, because what I'll do is, even though this really is still a pencil roughs phase, what I'll do is I'll just digitally create a second layer where I am going to really tighten up the drawing here. But for right now, what I'm doing is getting just the basics of the feel of this layout, which underneath is a thumbnail, and getting it a little more refined. Even though this is a rough, what we'll do afterward is get it to a stage where I like the composition, a stage where I'm comfortable with the layout, and then get to where I can then start tweaking things. So like what's happened here, for instance, with the figure, is I don't intend to bleed out this page, which means like it's a double page spread. Although I could bleed it out, which might be a nice thing. Like, let me see if I can pull away from here for a minute. In this comic book here, here's a print edition of my comic. Let's see, it opens up here, and then you can see here I've got let's see where it bleeds, and then I think elsewhere I do that as well. Yeah, right there. So I've got like these panels where there's white borders all around, which I think is a nice look. It helps break up anything that looks to blend together, because like sometimes when you draw pages and they're like crossing over, like I think they just get too busy, and it's nice to have these white panels, these white borders in between the panels, because it helps break things up. But here I start with a full lead, and then here definitely with this spread I go into a full-on lead. So I don't know if I'll do that or not with this page. The nice thing about digital is that I literally can on a whim decide to do either or. But for right now, I at least want to make sure I keep the figure within the main border, so that if I do bleed it, at least we got the character fully within the shot. And so I'm just going to shrink that up a little bit. Okay, I think his head can probably be, should I tilt that head down a bit more? Maybe I do want to tilt the head down, so we'll just take the selection tool and kind of angle it down. Like, this is so much more easy. I mean, obviously that goes without saying. Like, artists have been now using digital tools to draw and paint in so many different different genres. But if you're a comic book artist, like, it's so easy to just decide to bend an arm, or to move a head, or cock it slightly down, or move it. If I wanted this arm to be just a little more bent at the elbow and not have it look like so totally stiff, I can rotate that and bend that arm up. I've done this before with, like, in the past, using traditional pencils and papers with tracing paper, where what you'll do is you'll trace something in place and you realize, oh, I don't like that, I want to move it. Then you got a white box, or you do a rub out, and then you a rub out on the back of another piece of paper with it traced on, and then you rub it off to the position you want, which is kind of things I did, kind of things I think a lot of artists did before Photoshop and other similar digital drawing programs came along. Certainly before the computer, way before computers. So, okay, so that's that. I am going to focus next on the figure here in the foreground, which is going to be Kasia. So if you look at what I had before, this thumbnail just kind of gives us the gist of the entire scene, the entire layout, and we see her here in some pose where there's like something, a big reveal happens. What we're going to do is change up this pose though, this pose. So I want to go ahead, turn my pencil layer back on, and we're going to call up our reference again. So we'll do this little trick here, where I'm going to go into this split view between two programs, which is just essentially the photos on my iPad and the Procreate app. So what I want to do is I want to take this pose here and use it in this position, in this spot here, in place of this original thumbnail. But the only difference with the character is I need to change her head and her stare to where she's looking over her right shoulder, looking at what's going on here. It's almost like her body wants to pull away, but this event has happened that is going to have the focus of where this character needs to be looking. So that being said, let's kind of get started on drawing the figure, placing it here in position. So we'll get to see how I tackle that particular problem here, or this artistic type of what is my solution to this. So the first thing I need to do is just kind of start blocking in the character. So with an action line, kind of like if I see this right here, she's got this spine going right up here, slight curve, and the legs are pulling out and away from under her almost. So let's just kind of start with that. We'll bring in this little action line. The head is about right here. Draw this. There's a twist to this, to the hips in the hips area here. Hips are very important. And then you have the main trunk here. Shoulders. Right shoulder is higher, left shoulder is down. That shows you that it's almost like if you had a pillow. Imagine this is a pillow. You've got this kind of twisting action and then this kind of crunching in on the right side. I don't know if that makes sense. Her body's kind of doing this thing right here. So I'm going to take that, spot the deltoid, her right deltoid shoulder, and then I can see this line kind of drops here. And then we have her chest, the rib cage, slightly higher on the right, much lower on the left. So we'll kind of indicate that. And then her hips kind of have this contra feel to it. And then the neck, see how it's kind of it's dropped because her head is dropped, and her shoulders are kind of like I guess she's raising her shoulders up, kind of like if I think I saw from the side view this image, I would see that the head is kind of definitely pushing forward, but we're going to change that up. But we'll still indicate like where the clavicle is, right here, and then the neck. And of course, I'm going to end up doing something with the head here. But for now, I'm just going to focus on the body. Get this. Let me fix this shoulder up here a little bit. There we go. And then the arm, her right arm. And this is just a pencil rough phase. The shoulder definitely drops. Again, I see that. And then I'm gonna keep that because I want the hand, her hand, to have a little bit of expression. And here's the, well, let's see, to place it in the wrong spot. So you notice her hand is actually breaking, it's actually crossing the right side as far as the image that we see. And I'm gonna try to at least keep a little bit of that here. I don't want to like trace the or follow the image like slavishly copy it, right? But I want to use it as a reference. So here's her left arm. Go. See that? We'll erase some of these guidelines here. Then we got this kind of twisting action here. There's the center to the navel, and then from here you can see her crotch area here. It now has a definitive like shift right here. So we're gonna drop this down to here. I'm gonna place her here, and the hip area needs to be a little bit bigger. And then let's close it up. Draw the leg. The leg in there. The inside of her left thigh. Okay. And as I work on this, I know there's some distortion happening with the camera, of course, because it's a photo. There's always some kind of distortion happening. So you just kind of have to keep your eye on that, and kind of I kind of use my best judgment on how I want to regulate or resolve what I see in the photo versus what the scene, what I think the scene needs, plus to also play up anything dynamic in the artwork to kind of push it and give it a sense of like a sense of movement, a sense of flow. Yeah, sense of flow. Because photos can, like, this is a really nice pack of photos that I bought. I'm not sure where I got it. It was either on CubeBrush or ArtStation. But I really like their model packs, and this one was built or is promoted as an action pack, and for the most part it's pretty good, pretty cool stuff. Obviously she is the model here, and the reference is standing on what looks like a mattress, and so the weight is clearly falling here, but I want to give Kasia more of a floating feeling, and so I'm gonna again kind of use my best judgment here to figure out or to determine how I want to have the body flowing in this instance here. So again, I'm kind of trying to figure this out. It's a pencil rough stage at this point in this layer here. So for now we've got something kind of like that, and I can already kind of see off the bat that what I may want to do is get this leg maybe up a little higher, the left leg. So we will use our digital advantage, which is to be able to move and tweak images, and in this case tweak my drawing to where I can get this exactly as I need to have it set up. So this is what we're looking like so far, and for a sketch it's not bad. I'm going to just erase some of these sketch lines here, these guidelines here, and let's see, I like the position of the hand, or the formation of the hand, so I might just stick with that. It's not quite a fist that she's making here with her right hand, but she's got some, again, I like the pose of it, the way it's being presented there. And so let's see, we're gonna have her chest kind of fall down here in this area, and we'll see a little bit of it here in the picture, the drawing, referencing the photo. Let's see, clean this up a little, and again, as I mentioned, she's wearing like this bikini bathing suit thing, a costume, and so right here we basically have the essential pose of this character. And since I am going to have her head in a different position than what we see in the photo with what I'm doing here, I'm going to either find another reference, because she does need to, in essence, kind of look like she's looking kind of sort of back toward what's happening. And so my head is the drawing I'm doing here of her, the head is going to be up a little higher, looking back. So for now, we've got this going on. Not bad so far, you know. I might want to darken that up so I can see what it looks like. A trick that I use is sometimes I'll just duplicate a layer, and just like that, it stacks right on top of itself, and things get a lot darker. I probably, if I undo that, probably could go into my curves and see if I can darken it that way. No, it's not doing anything. I think that's because it's super light, or maybe I've got the wrong setting here. No, curves, that would be it. That's where we would, you know, adjust the mid value, the highlight, and the dark value, shadows. But again, it's such a roughed in pencil sketch here that might not be the best use of that tool for darkening it. And so what I do is I just, like you just saw what I did, just kind of take the pencils layer, duplicate it, and it darkens it for me. And if I like what I see there, it's dark enough for me to kind of use this as my pencil rough phase. I will just merge the layers. You know what, let's call that pencil roughs. There we go. And this phase, as far as the figures, is I think it's done. Let's see, can I get my pencil back? There we go. Here, just like that. Okay. So this gives me a good idea, a good feel for how I'm going to utilize this model here in this particular pose, in this particular page here. So let's open up a little bit more of the spread, pinch that to get it to fit within the viewer. And I think this is pretty good so far. I've got to add some details to Add-on's costume here, to his costume. Add the little bars with the flames and everything. But right off the bat, I do like what I see here with the characters, the way they're angled, and the way the page so far is turning out.